Today we'll be discussing about application problems of quadratic equations. So this again another video on academics because we cannot travel yet. Application problems of quadratic equations. Let us recall the steps in solving problem solvings. Read the problem thoroughly and gather the necessary information. Identify what is or ask. Number 3, represent the unknown quantities with algebraic expression based on the information. Number 4, formulate the equation. Number 5, determine the solution set or roots of the equation. And number 6, check the roots. So recalling the four methods of solving quadratic equation: extracting the square root, factoring, completing the square or quadratic formula. Any among the four can be used to solve the quadratic equation application problem. So let's have our first example, a number-related problem. The product of two consecutive even numbers is 2 to 4. Find the numbers. So let's make first a representation. We take x to be the first even number and x plus 2 to be the second even number. So since we are asked of the product, we will multiply the two. So that will be x times x plus 2 is equal to 224. Then we apply the distributive property. X times x is x squared and x times 2 is 2x, and copy 224. And then I will be transferring 224 on the left side, so it becomes a negative. Again, that's a shortcut of addition property of equality, but you may not transfer 224 if you will be using completing the square method. But I will be using factoring, that's why I transferred 2 to 4. But you could also use quadratic formula, but you cannot use extracting the root because of the presence of b. So any of the three methods can be used. So let's continue. We think of factors of negative 2 to 4 when we add will give you a 2. Okay, what would that be? So for the sake of an example, I'll be giving you the answer right away. So that's x plus 16 and x minus 14. And then we will equate the first factor to 0 and the second factor also to 0. Then we solve the first factor here. That is x plus 16 equals 0. We transfer 16 on the right side. It becomes a negative 16. So this is our first even number. On the right side, when we continue solving, that becomes a positive 14. Now, recalling in our representation, we had x plus 2 to be our second even integer. So let's solve for that. We substitute negative 16 to our x, so this becomes a value of negative 14. So that's our second even integer, taking the first root, that is negative 16. What if we take the second root to be 14? So we replace x with 14, and so that would give you a 14 times 2 is 16. So we could have our answer to be negative 16 and negative 14. That gives you 224 once multiplied. Also, when you multiply 14 and 16, that gives you also a 224 when you multiply them. That's why when you make a conclusion, you would say the two consecutive even numbers are negative 16 and negative 14, or 14 and 16. So there you go for the number related problem. Let's go now to example number 2, a geometry problem. The area of a concrete pathway is 350 square meters and its perimeter is 90 meters. What is the length of the pathway? So first thing to do is we make a representation. We just take W to be the width and the L to be the length. Actually, you can use X and Y. You can use also A and B. You can use any letter in the alphabet. But in this case, I use W and L for easier identification. So what else was given in the problem? So you have there the area and the perimeter. So recalling, the formula for area is 2L plus 2W, and the perimeter, I'm sorry, area is length times width, and perimeter is 2L plus 2W. So there you go. So 90 is your perimeter and 350 is your area. There. So let's continue. First, we focus on the perimeter. That is 2L plus 2W equals 90. Then we will simplify this. Divide everything by 2. So 2L becomes an L, 2W becomes W, and your 45 will become a 9. Sorry, your 90 will become a 45. Okay? And then from there, we transfer W on the right side. So positive W becomes a negative W. So there you go. That is our representation now for solving for the value of L. Okay. Now, we go back to the formula for the area, which is L times W equals 350. So we will replace our L with this that we have derived. So that becomes now 45 minus W times W equals 350. Applying the distributive property, W times 45 is 45W, and negative W times W is W squared. And then we have here transferring the negative W on the right side and 45 on the right side. So we have that equation. We can also apply the reflective property so that the right side is the 0. So this would become a W squared minus 45W plus 350 equals 0. So here, you can now use factoring, quadratic formula, or if you may, you will use completing the square. You just need to transfer 350 on the other side. For my case, I'll be using factoring. So it's for you to find which among the methods is easiest, then you make use of that. But then again, you can use extracting the root here because of the presence of b. Okay, so we factor that. That's W minus 35 and W minus 10. Equate the first factor to 0 as well as the second factor. And then solve for W here. That's 35. And the second one is 18. Now, between the two, I would use 10 to be the width because technically, as you learn in elementary, width is shorter than the length, or the length is longer than the width. It's not because purple is my favorite color though. So, let us recall our representation previously that we had 45 minus W to be our L. So, we replace W here, which is 10, so it becomes a 10. So, 45 minus 10 is correct. It's a 35, so that becomes our length. So, we need to have a conclusion to answer our problem, which is looking for the length. So, the length of the pathway is 35. Okay, so there you go for the problem on geometry. So what you will do now is replay, pause again, pause, play again until you have fully understood. Okay, thank you very much for watching the video on solving application problems on quadratic equation, a video on academics still. So stay safe and healthy. Thank you once again.